I've watched a lot of Americans arrive in the Philippines, a lot in 9 years. I've seen them come in on a plane with big plans and their carry-on luggage and their YouTube education, and I've watched what happens next. Some of them figured it out. Some of them are still here today, doing well. And some of them, and this is the part nobody really talks about, some of them packed it up and went back home with their tails between their legs. They all made the same mistakes every single time. Same movie, different actors. And today I'm going to tell you what that movie looks like. Because if you're thinking about making this move, I'd a whole lot rather you know the pattern before you land. True story. So pattern number one, I'm going to call this pattern the budget creep. Guys watched, like I mentioned, a few videos. He sees people living over here on $1,200, $1,500, maybe $2,000 per month. He looks around at his current surroundings and he says, wow, I'd much rather have that lifestyle than the one that I've got over here in Cleveland. So I'm going to take the plunge. And he does. He jumps right into the pool. Problem is, he jumps into the pool without a proper life jacket. In other words, he hasn't taken the time or the energy or the effort to stack up what I would call a safety net or a backup fund, something to take care of you in the event of emergencies. Nope, he's decided that he's going to move over here and live check to check. And you know what? The first 3 to maybe 6 months, that works out just fine. Because why? Well, the first 3 to 6 months, he's living here like a monk. He just got here. He's got his first apartment. He wheeled and dealed for that and got a good deal. He hasn't got his own transportation yet. He doesn't know anybody. And he's eating pretty much the local food because that's what he always dreamed about doing. And guess what? It's working like a charm. He's got X amount coming in and he's only spending that $1,200. He's actually saving a few bucks. But then what happens? Outside influences. Now he's made a few friends. Maybe he's made a few foreigner friends. And they're getting along and they've invited him to come along with them to go have lunch or dinner or drinks or all of the above. And out he goes. And he's having the time of his life. But he's now eating in different restaurants and paying different prices. Maybe he's having an extra pop of an alcoholic beverage or his favorite beverage, whatever it might be. Maybe he's staying out a little later, a little longer. He's laughing it up. He's having a good time. He could possibly even be playing the big shot and picking up a check here and there. No harm, no foul. But suddenly, that $1,200 that he's been spending just popped up or jumped up to $1,500, kind of out of nowhere. And now he's also decided that that apartment that he's living in, because he's seen these other guys' places, that apartment he's living in is kind of a sweatbox. He wants to upgrade a little bit. So he'll take their advice, he'll look around. Maybe now he's got some transportation and he finds a nicer apartment. It's 1 bedroom instead of a studio. And he's starting to leave the air conditioning on 24 hours a day. Because let's face it, boys and girls, it's hot out here. And it's nice to come home into a nice, cool home. And especially to go to sleep in a nice, cool bedroom. Now, instead of $1,500, because he's upgraded the apartment and he's running the aircon and he's eating all these nice meals with these guys, he's jumped it up to $1,900 a month. Still, he's covered. It's all good. Now, if we throw in a companion, well, remember, everything has a peso attached to it. And so this companion that he's now met, and I don't judge that, most guys do, that $1,900 all of a sudden went to his full-on check of $2,200 a month. And now he is living check to check, just like he did in Cleveland. And so he is now waiting for that check to show up every month, waiting for his phone to ding to say that it came in, because that is now, instead of having a nice cushion, that has become a lifeline. And then, unfortunately, something happens and things degrade from there, and he is now out of money. And like I said in the introduction, he's got to pack it up and he's got to go home with his tail between his legs. That is the first mistake that I see guys making the most often. Pattern number 2. All right, the guys that succeed, that do well, that have been here for a long time, just like yours truly, we have treated immigration as part of our budget, and as part we treat it like a business. It's something that must be done every couple of months if we're on a tourist visa. There's also other options that are available, like an SRRV, that gives you actually more rights and privileges. I would leave it up to you to investigate those and see which ones work best for you. I don't know what your needs and wants are. All I can tell you is what I have found and what I do. But what happens to the guys that don't treat it like a business, that don't treat it seriously, and they're kind of lackadaisical with it, or they just get flat out lazy, or worse, they find that they can't afford the $50 that it takes every couple of months to go down and renew their tourist visa. That is no bueno. And if you get behind, the further behind you get, the more serious the consequences are. They have places called jails over here. And the most serious thing that they take, next to murder and rape and all that nasty stuff, is failure to keep your immigration status current. Please do not fall into that trap. It is low cost. It is easy to do. I know it's a headache to have to go down every 2 months and spend maybe an hour at immigration. But you know what? If you want to live a full, happy, carefree life here, the best way to sabotage that for yourself is to try to screw yourself over when it comes to immigration. They treat it, I'll say it again, it is serious over here. God forbid you should come into their radar and you're a day or two behind, or a month or two behind, or heaven forbid a year or more behind. You will be in for some serious consequences. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. There was a guy here in Dumaguete that got into all kinds of trouble. And even though the offenses against him were really, really big, bigger than I think immigration was, you know what they used to get rid of him? He was 3 days over on his visa. And those were the grounds that they found they were legally able to kick him out of here to never to return again. I'm sure you've heard the story about this guy. Well, 3 days is not enough to get you kicked out. Technically it is, but I've gone in where I've been 4 or 5 days late just because I got the numbers transposed in my mind. And they just looked at me and they said, "You've overstayed by 5 days." I said, "Yeah, what does that mean?" And they said, "Well, you got to pay an extra 1,000 peso penalty." I said, "Okay, fine." Paid by 1,000, and that was that. Happened one time to me in Cebu when I was going for an exit clearance. But that's not the point. The point being is that you really need to treat your immigration status over here seriously, as a heart attack, because it'll be the one thing that is the easiest to do, but will take you down faster and harder than anything else. Pattern number 3, the loneliness. Nobody from home is calling you anymore. The kids are possibly ignoring you. You don't stay in touch with old friends anymore. The friends that you've made over here are really acquaintances. They're not a deep connection like you may have had at home. You know, a lot of guys come over here and they've had a lot of issues in their life. Some of them don't have the best of habits, the best of attitudes. They've got some history in their life, and they think that if they come over here to the Philippines, all of that's going to get washed away and erased, and they're going to have a fresh start. Well, that may be true if you're able to take all of those patterns and misbehaviors and perhaps some of your flaws and leave them at the airport. I have found that most guys come over here with the exact same personality disorders, flaws, character breakdowns, and it tends to escalate over here simply because you can apparently get away with more crap than you could when you were back home. And they find themselves escalating downward spirals as far as their mental makeup. They're feeling more and more lonely. They're feeling more and more ostracized. They feel let down, like the Philippines was supposed to fix them, when in fact they just didn't have an honest conversation with themselves before they got on the plane. They didn't have the conversation where they could acknowledge to themselves, by themselves, this is how I've done things in the past that have not worked. I'm not going to repeat those same behaviors when I get over here. If they've managed to do that and they work on themselves, they don't work on the Philippines changing them, they work on themselves being able to change with a new environment, with more smiling faces, with the acquaintances that they have made, and they can let go of some of the negativity and the nuances that was bothering them back home, then they have that chance. But sometimes when they get over here and they bring their bad habits and they bring their bad memories and they bring their misbehaving type of attitude, it simply escalates and becomes untenable for them. And they find themselves being less happy than more happy. That's another reason that I see guys over here simply burn up, turn to ash, and blow away. They don't have to do it to themselves. The world around them has a way of getting even with that type of attitude and that kind of behavior. The Philippines is a very forgiving place until it's not. Pattern number 4. Cheap versus easy. Some guys come over here expecting that everything is going to run over here just like it runs back home in America, only at a lower price tag. But the minute the internet doesn't work or is slow, there's a brownout, something is out of stock, the traffic ties them up in knots, the language barriers become untenable on some days more than others, and they find themselves feeling sorry for themselves and as opposed to embracing the culture for what it is. I've been one of those guys, and a lot of the people that I've seen succeed over here, knock on wood, it worked for me. I've just been able to adjust and adapt and accept the Philippines for what it is. I can laugh off a brownout. I can laugh off something being out of stock. Let's face it, just because they don't have my favorite bologna down at the store today, is that really going to ruin my entire time over here? Is that going to just implode my retirement life? No. Because I have an interruption while I'm watching TV and the lights go out or the internet goes off or both, is that just going to crush all my hopes and dreams? No. It means I'm going to pick up and I'm going to grab the old lady and we're going to go for a motorcycle ride. That's adjusting. That's just going with the flow. God bless those guys that think that just because they've come over here, they are entitled to all of the nice things that we enjoy in America. the infrastructure, the health care, the internet always working. No such thing as a brownout. I don't know about out of stock. I'm assuming that everything's pretty well loaded up in the supermarkets and the stores these days. The ease of shipping, phone numbers that always work, phone plans that don't go in and out with wherever it is that you happen to be located, like it does with me. Right now, I'm at a little resort with my wife. I can't get a phone signal, and you know what? It's not going to ruin my day. It just means I'll return somebody's phone call later, if anybody bothered to call me. So, if you're a guy that thinks that everything over here is going to be just like it is back home for half the price, think again, bucko. That's just not the way things run over here. And either you can adapt and you can adjust, and most importantly, you can accept it. And if you don't think that you can, do yourself a big favor. Don't buy the ticket and don't get on the plane. You are bound to be disappointed. So in closing, I'll just say this. Remember what they taught us in kindergarten. Share, be nice to your neighbor, and take a nap. When you come over to the Philippines, or any other country for that matter, try to mind your manners. Try to be nice to your fellow neighbor. Take your nap, for crying out loud. And leave the nonsense in your home country, if possible, in your home country. Try to take a look at this with a new set of lenses. You're in a new environment with new opportunities, getting a chance to meet some really cool, new, interesting people, seeing things that you never thought you would see before. This is not a sales job to get you to come to the Philippines. I'm not working for the Board of Tourism on commission. I'm also not here to talk you out of coming to the Philippines. I'm simply here relating my own experiences, my own observations, and hopefully through this conversation, you may be able to take away, if nothing else, just one thing that I mentioned that perhaps you haven't heard before or possibly ever thought of. Thanks a lot for sticking around to the end of the video, and I will see you the next time we're on the Big Bad YouTube.